black SUV circled Franklin Park for the fourth time as 8-year-old Sarah Matthews tossed a tennis ball to her German Shepherd Zeus. What seemed like a peaceful afternoon was actually being watched closely. For weeks, the Los Angeles Cartel had meticulously planned this moment, selecting their target, tracking the family's every move. To them, it looked simple, a little girl playing with her dog in a quiet Denver park. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. In the next 2 hours, this retired military K-9 wouldn't just protect his young handler. He'd help dismantle one of the largest cartel operations Colorado had ever seen. 17 arrests, over $30 million in illegal assets seized. And it all began with a German Shepherd's unshakable instincts. This is the true story of how Mexico's most dangerous cartel made a fatal mistake, targeting the daughter of a former Special Forces K-9 handler, and how their carefully laid plans crumbled under the silent watch of a dog trained for war. We'll walk you through the real surveillance footage, eyewitness reports, and unravel the operation step by step. But first, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And if this story hits home, make sure you subscribe, because tomorrow's upload might just blow your mind. Now back to that October afternoon. The air was crisp, the sound of kids laughing carried across Franklin Park. Sarah tugged her red wool hat snugly over her ears and reached for the tennis ball in Zeus's mouth. The German Shepherd locked his eyes on her, ears perked and ready. "Good boy, Zeus, ready?" she called out, her voice full of childhood excitement. From a nearby bench, her mom, Angela, glanced up from her book, smiling. "Not too far, sweetie. Stay where I can see you." "Yes, Mom!" Sarah yelled back without looking, eyes still fixed on Zeus, who now sat perfectly still, waiting for her throw. Down the road, the black SUV crept past the entrance once again, its dark windows reflecting sunlight like mirrors. Inside, Marco Ramirez drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, watching through black sunglasses. "Same time every Wednesday," Carlos muttered from the passenger seat, jotting notes in a small leather notebook. "The mom always picks the same bench, no sign of the dad." Marco nodded. "Master Sergeant Matthews is still at Fort Carson. Our guy says he's training a new K-9 unit. Won't be back till late." Zeus turned his head slightly, ears flicking toward the low rumble of the SUV's engine. Sarah didn't notice, but Angela did. Her brow furrowed for a moment. "Go get it!" Sarah yelled, launching the ball across the field. Zeus didn't bolt right away. Instead, he waited, eyeing the ball's bounce before sprinting after it with military precision. But when he reached it, he didn't just grab it, he sniffed the air, circling the ball once, then gently picked it up and returned. Angela closed her book, her eyes tracking Zeus. After 3 tours in Afghanistan, the dog had adjusted to civilian life, becoming Sarah's protector. But every now and then, like today, his old training showed through in how he moved, and how alert he always stayed. "Did you see how fast he was, Mom?" Sarah grinned, tossing her arms around Zeus's neck. "I saw, sweetheart," Angela smiled. "Very impressive. We've got 20 more minutes before we head home. Dad's making his special al pastor tonight." Meanwhile, in the SUV, Diego Santos sent a text. "El Jefe says we move tomorrow. The route's clean. Safe house is ready." Marco nodded. "Perfect. Same drop-off routine. Thursday mornings. Mom drops the girl off at Cherry Creek Elementary at 7:45, then goes to teach at Carson Middle. We grab her in the handoff." Carlos frowned, watching Zeus. "That dog. There's something about it." Marco waved him off. "Just a pet, nothing more. By this time tomorrow the girl's with us, and her father will do exactly what we say." But Zeus's ears twitched again as the SUV passed. He moved closer to Sarah, not in panic but with subtle purpose. His body language stayed calm, but his senses were locked in. A breeze rustled the trees, yellow leaves floated down. Sarah hugged Zeus tighter. "You're the best dog ever," she whispered. Zeus didn't flinch. He leaned into her, eyes still scanning the street. Angela stood up. "Time to go, honey. Dad's waiting." As they walked back to their car, Zeus stayed at Sarah's side, silent, steady, and watchful. The SUV was gone, but not forgotten. In his mind, the game had changed. From a nearby apartment overlooking the park, Javier Morales lowered his binoculars and picked up his phone. They're leaving. All set for tomorrow, he said, pausing. Yeah, just the mom and daughter. The dog won't be an issue. The sun dipped lower behind the trees. Long shadows crept across the grass as families packed up and headed home, none of them noticing the figure in the window or realizing they were standing in the calm before a storm that would soon shake Denver's criminal underworld to its core. In a quiet corner of Cherry Creek, nestled among rows of tidy upper-middle-class homes, the Matthews house blended in perfectly. From the kitchen window, James Matthews stood watching as the family's silver Honda pulled into the driveway. Zeus was the first one out, alert as always, scanning the surroundings before 8-year-old Sarah hopped out behind him, full of energy. "How was the park?" James asked as they came inside, the warm scent of garlic and basil filling the air from his signature dish on the stove. He stood tall, posture straight from years in special forces, but the moment he hugged Sarah, his eyes softened. "Zeus was awesome, Dad," Sarah said, hanging up her coat. "He did this thing where he circled the ball before picking it up. It was so cool." Angela gave her husband a glance, brief but filled with unspoken concern. "Why don't you go wash up for dinner, sweetie? Dad's famous Al Pastor is almost ready," she said gently. As Sarah skipped upstairs, Angela lowered her voice. "That black SUV passed the park 4 times, she said. "Zeus noticed it before I did." James's jaw tightened. "Same one as Tuesday?" "Different plates, but same model." Zeus kept positioning himself between Sarah and the road. Across town, in a rundown apartment complex, Marco Ramirez was busy spreading out photographs on a beat-up table. In the center was Sarah's school photo, surrounded by surveillance shots of the family's daily routines. "The mother always parks here," Marco pointed to a marked spot on a school map. "The girl gets out on the passenger side, 10 steps to the entrance." Carlos cleaned his pistol in silence. "What about the dog?" "Zeus stays home during school hours. The mother drops her off and heads straight to her teaching job. Clean. Simple." Just then, Diego's phone buzzed. "Javier says the buyers are getting impatient. They want confirmation by tomorrow night." Marco's expression turned cold. "Tell them they'll have it. Once we have the girl, her father will give us everything. Military drug detection protocols, scan routes, the works. No more lost shipments at the border." Back at the Matthews house, dinner had just begun. Zeus lay on the floor near Sarah's chair, seemingly relaxed, but his ears twitched constantly, picking up every noise outside. "Mrs. Thompson said I'm getting better at multiplication," Sarah said between bites of pasta. "I finished all my homework during study hall." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," James replied with a smile, but every so often his eyes flicked toward the window. 20 years in special forces had sharpened his instincts, and something didn't feel right. "I thought I'd take Sarah shopping after school tomorrow," Angela offered casually. "Cherry Creek Mall's having a big sale." James shook his head subtly. "Maybe this weekend. I'd feel better if you came straight home." Sarah didn't pick up on the tension, but Zeus did. His ears perked at the change in tone between her parents. Across town, in a different safe house, Javier Morales paced as he spoke into a burner phone. "Yes, senor. The Matthews girl is the key. Her father oversees all K-9 training for border drug interdiction," he said. "No, he won't cooperate without the right pressure. Yes, we already have a buyer, 20 million, as agreed." He ended the call and turned to his associate. "Miguel, alert our people at the mall. If the school plan fails, we'll need backup." That night, as the city of Denver settled into silence, the streetlights cast golden puddles of light on the empty sidewalks. In her bedroom, Sarah was curled up with a book while Zeus lay beside her, eyes closed, body calm, but senses sharp. "Mom said you were super protective today," Sarah said, scratching behind his ears. "Were you looking for bad guys?" Zeus nudged her hand gently, his deep brown eyes filled with intelligence far beyond that of a typical pet. He had seen war, and something about that SUV had triggered instincts that never faded. James stood quietly in the doorway. "Time for sleep, princess. School tomorrow." "Can Zeus stay with me tonight?" "Of course," he replied, kissing her forehead. He gave Zeus a soft pat. "Watch over her, boy." Downstairs, James and Angela sat at the kitchen table, voices low. I've noticed more surveillance lately, James said. Different cars, but similar patterns. Angela frowned. At first I thought I was being paranoid. Should I contact my unit? Not yet. No hard proof. And I don't want to spook them if they are watching. But Zeus sensed something today. And that dog's never wrong. Angela gripped her mug a little tighter. I'll change up our route to school tomorrow. Take a few detours. Good, and keep your phone close. If anything feels off, even slightly, call me. I know, she said softly, reaching across the table for his hand. We've handled worse before. Upstairs, Zeus stirred. His ears twitched as a car rolled slowly past the house, its headlights off. In her sleep, Sarah turned over. Zeus crept to the window, scanned the street in silence, then returned to his spot beside her bed. He looked relaxed, but his muscles were tense, coiled beneath the surface, ready. As the night deepened, two very different groups prepared for the next morning. In safe houses across the city, cartel members checked weapons and memorized routes. Meanwhile, in a quiet home in Cherry Creek, a soldier's instincts and a dog's loyalty stood guard against the darkness closing in. Thank you for being part of our channel. Your support truly means the world to us. Now, let's get back to the story. Dawn broke over Denver under a heavy gray sky, clouds thick with the promise of rain. Inside the Matthews kitchen, James was already up, standing by the window at 5:30 a.m., mug in hand, eyes fixed on the street. Old military habits didn't fade easily. Beside him sat Zeus, still, focused and watchful, his ears tuned to the faintest shift in sound as newspaper delivery cars passed quietly down the block. Angela stepped into the room, already dressed for her teaching job. Everything quiet? She asked softly. Too quiet, James replied, his tone guarded. He took another sip of coffee. I'm thinking of calling in, see if I can reschedule the K9 training session. We can't draw suspicion, Angela reminded him gently. If they're watching, they'll notice. Their conversation ended abruptly as little footsteps echoed down the stairs. Sarah entered the kitchen with a bounce, her backpack swinging, covered in colorful pins from every base her father had ever been stationed. Morning, Princess, James said, forcing a smile. Ready for that math test? Just 2 blocks away, inside a white utility van disguised with fake cable company logos, Marco Ramirez adjusted his earpiece. Radio check, he muttered. Carlos, already in position near the school, responded without looking away from the building. Morning drop-off started. No complications. Diego's voice followed over the line. Matthews just checked the vehicle. The dog's inside. The girl's with him. Marco zipped up his phony technician vest. Remember, we've got a 10-second window between the car pulling in and the school entrance. No mistakes. Miguel, status on the distraction? Miguel Ortiz sat a block away, engine idling, watching parents begin their morning routines. His phone displayed a countdown timer, ticking toward exactly 7:45 a.m. Back at the Matthews home, Sarah was finishing her cereal while James triple-checked her lunchbox. Extra juice box today, he said, zipping it up, and I added those cookies you like. Thanks, Dad, Sarah hugged him tight. Will you be home for dinner? James crouched to her level. I'll try my best, sweetheart. Hey, how about taking Zeus in for show and tell next week? Bet your class would love to meet a real military dog. Angela caught the hidden meaning in that sentence. James wanted Zeus with Sarah next week, but that wouldn't help them today. All right, sweetie, time to go, Angela said, grabbing her teaching bag. Let's not be late. As they neared the door, Zeus's entire posture shifted. His ears perked, body tensed, eyes locked on the outside world. James saw it instantly, that alert stance, the same one he'd seen dozens of times on deployment. Zeus stepped in front of Sarah, blocking her gently. It's okay, boy, James said, patting him, though his voice had a serious edge. Watch the house for me. Around them, in 3 separate vehicles scattered through the neighborhood, cartel lookouts tracked the movement through binoculars. Javier Morales' voice came over the secure radio. Primary target is moving. All units, stand by. Angela walked Sarah to the car, eyes scanning the street with the subtle caution of someone trained to notice what shouldn't be there. Garbage bins out, sprinklers on, joggers doing their usual routes. Everything looked normal. But it didn't feel normal. Mom, can we get ice cream after school? Sarah asked as she buckled up. We'll see, baby. Angela smiled faintly. Let's focus on that math test first. From the doorway, James watched as the car backed out. Zeus let out a low whine beside him, tail still, body rigid. James didn't need data. He didn't need a briefing. Every gut instinct honed through 2 decades of special forces was screaming, something's off. At Cherry Creek Elementary, Carlos adjusted his uniform in the side mirror of a maintenance truck. Parents and kids passed by without a second glance. He checked his hidden earpiece. Target vehicle turning onto Madison, Diego's voice reported. 3 minutes out. Marco parked his fake utility van 2 blocks from the school and responded calmly. All teams, final positions. Miguel, initiate the distraction on my mark. Inside the Honda, Angela took a longer, winding route to school. Random turns, unfamiliar streets. In the rearview mirror, she clocked a blue sedan that had taken the last 3 turns with her. Mom, this isn't the way to school, Sarah said, confused as landmarks blurred past. Just taking the scenic route today, Angela replied calmly. Look at those fall colors. The blue sedan peeled off suddenly, but her unease only grew. James had taught her well. If you lose one tail, it usually means others are already in place. Back at Fort Carson, James sat in his office, staring at his phone. The new K9 handlers were waiting on him, but his mind was elsewhere. At the park, at the SUV, at Zeus's reaction. A young lieutenant popped his head in. Sir, handlers are ready. Run 'em through the obstacle course, James said. I need to make a call. At home, Zeus paced restlessly, window to window, sniffing the air, scanning the street. His training was kicking in. Something was happening. He didn't know what, but he felt it. In the school parking lot, Miguel looked at his watch. 7:43 a.m., 2 minutes to go. On my mark, Marco's voice crackled through the radio. Prepare to execute. In the Honda, Sarah zipped up her backpack. She was completely unaware of the cartel units converging on their location, of the men with eyes locked on her every move. Angela's grip tightened on the wheel, and in her head, one line from James echoed loud and clear. If anything feels wrong, even a little, don't ignore it. Ahead of them, Cherry Creek Elementary came into view. Just beyond the drop-off line, a storm was waiting. Angela slowed the car, every nerve on edge. One wrong move could put Sarah in direct danger, but acting too nervous could spring whatever trap had been laid. She kept her voice calm, steady. Ready for that math test, sweetheart? I think so. I practiced a lot last night, Sarah replied, unaware of the tension building around them. Above them, storm clouds gathered, promising more than just rain. Neither mother nor daughter noticed the white utility van turning onto the street behind them, nor did they catch the subtle glance of a maintenance man near the school's entrance, casually checking his watch. 7:44 a.m., Cherry Creek Elementary. Angela eased the Honda into the drop-off lane, her eyes locked on the rearview mirror. The utility van kept its distance, 3 cars back, no closer. Near the entrance, the same maintenance man adjusted a ladder with movements that were far too precise. Angela's military-trained instincts lit up. That wasn't how real workers moved. That was formation discipline. Mom, why are we stopping here? Sarah asked, confused. This isn't where we usually stop. Angela's fingers tightened around the gear shift. They were 5 car lengths short of their usual spot, just outside the optimal range of the school's security cameras. The crowd around them buzzed with normalcy, parents chatting, teachers waving, kids hurrying to class. But Angela saw through the noise. Too many men, too much coordination, too much purpose. Miguel, initiate the distraction, Marco's voice came through Cartel radios. Right on cue, Miguel's car screeched forward at the far end of the lot, scraping against a teacher's vehicle. The security guard's head snapped in that direction and sprinted toward the incident. Now, Marco ordered. Carlos began moving toward the Matthews car, blending in with the crowd in his fake maintenance uniform. Angela didn't flinch. She had seconds, maybe less. Sarah, listen to me, she said softly, reaching for her phone. Put on your backpack, but don't open your door. Not until I say. But Mom, I'll be late. Just do it, baby. Carlos murmured into his hidden mic. Primary target holding position. Moving in. Angela's thumb hovered over a special button on her phone, a direct line to James and base security, programmed years ago for exactly this. Carlos closed in, toolbox in hand, right hand hidden. A soccer mom honked behind them. "Come on, move up!" Angela rolled the window halfway up. Carlos smiled until he realized she knew. His face shifted. Marco's voice cut through the earpiece. "Take her, now!" It all exploded in seconds. Carlos lunged for the passenger door just as Miguel's distraction escalated, drawing more parents into the chaos. The utility van veered to block Angela from behind. Angela floored it. The Honda jolted into reverse, smashing into the van's front fender, metal crumpling with a sickening crunch. Sarah screamed as her seatbelt locked her in. Carlos stumbled back, dazed. Angela's thumb hit the emergency alert. "All units converge. Get the girl," Marco ordered, abandoning all subtlety. But they had underestimated Angela Matthews. She yanked the steering wheel, mounted the curb, and drove straight across the school lawn. Kids and parents scattered in shock. Sarah held on, eyes wide. Carlos reached for his weapon, but the crowd made a shot impossible. The van, now damaged, couldn't chase them across the grass. "Shots fired at Cherry Creek Elementary!" Angela shouted into her phone, loud, clear, and strategic. There hadn't been any shots, but the words had the desired effect. Panic spread. Phones came out. Parents ducked and ran. Teachers ushered kids inside. School lockdown protocols snapped into place. "Abort! Abort!" Marco screamed into his radio. "Scatter! All units, go!" Too late. Angela's voice had triggered mass witness response. Dozens of parents caught the scene on video. Faces, vehicles, plates, uniforms, everything had been recorded. The fake maintenance crew now stood out like a sore thumb. Sarah sat frozen, gripping her backpack as her mother maneuvered the car back to the street, tires screeching. Angela was already executing the escape protocols she and James had rehearsed over the years, moving through zones with high surveillance, heading toward secure checkpoints. "Mom, what's happening?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking. "It's okay, sweetheart. Dad's already on his way." Angela's voice stayed calm, her hands steady, even as her eyes scanned for threats in every mirror. Behind them, the blue sedan reappeared, followed by the dented utility van. At Fort Carson, James was already sprinting toward his vehicle, Zeus charging beside him, ears pinned, ready. Base security had dispatched 2 unmarked cars, and Denver PD was moving in fast. Back at the school, chaos reigned. The lockdown alarm screamed as Carlos and his team tried to blend in with the crowd, but their synchronization made it impossible. Parents were already describing them to 911. Videos were being uploaded in real time. "Target's mobile, heading east on 3rd Avenue, Diego shouted into the radio. "She knew," Marco hissed. "The mother knew. She was ready." He fought to coordinate his broken operation, weaving through traffic. "Maintain pursuit. Stay low. We can still salvage this." But Angela had already shifted into full evasive mode. Every turn took her closer to pre-identified safe zones, police stations, military facilities, high-security zones. She wasn't just running, she was navigating. The van tried to follow, running a red light, only to swerve wildly to avoid a delivery truck. The blue sedan kept pace until Angela made her next move. "Hold on tight, baby," she told Sarah as they neared the Cherry Creek Shopping Center. With one hand on the wheel, she hit the voice dial. "Call Grandpa Steve." As the car turned into the covered parking structure, her phone chirped to life. "Angela?" came James's voice, transmitted through encrypted base channels. Cartel members monitoring intercepted radio chatter heard the words they didn't want to hear. "Denver PD is tracking you. You're done. You've got about 3 minutes before this entire zone is crawling with cops and military." The voice came through Marco's earpiece like a final verdict. His stomach dropped. The plan, meticulously crafted over weeks, was collapsing in real time. "All units, disengage!" Marco barked. "Fall back to secondary locations. Maintain surveillance only." But it was already too late. Sirens began echoing through Denver's streets. A low thump of helicopter rotors rolled in above, and just like that, even watching from a distance became impossible. The window of opportunity had slammed shut, shattered by a mother's instincts and one crucial moment of hesitation. In the shadows of the underground parking deck at Cherry Creek Shopping Center, Sarah's voice finally broke through the silence. "Those men, they were trying to take me." Angela guided the car deeper into cover between two thick concrete pillars. "Yes, honey," she said, her voice calm but firm. "But they didn't know who they were dealing with. Your dad and I, we've been ready for something like this, always." Above them, the sky finally opened up, rain hammering down across Denver. But inside the structure, Angela had already won the battle. She'd done what no one had expected, turned a covert professional kidnapping operation into a public disaster for the cartel. Outside the vehicle, Denver PD was securing the perimeter. Officers moved with purpose, weapons drawn but controlled. Angela had positioned the car perfectly, with clear sight lines in all directions. Every move she made screamed tactical precision. Detective Elena Rodriguez approached slowly, both hands visible. "Mrs. Matthews," she said, recognizing the level of control in Angela's stance. "I'm Detective Rodriguez. Your husband is 2 minutes out. He's got a military escort." Angela remained seated, her body shielding Sarah even now. The little girl hadn't let go of the seatbelt since the escape. "5 men total," Angela reported without missing a beat. The leader was in a white utility van, front quarter panel smashed. Hispanic male, early 30s, military trained, his movements were clean. One posed as maintenance, carrying concealed in a toolbox. 2 others provided surveillance in civilian vehicles. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow at the detail. "Military spouse?" she asked. 15 years? Special forces?" Outside Cherry Creek Elementary, James Matthews arrived, Zeus at his side. The German Shepherd was already sweeping the scene with his nose, posture tight, eyes calculating. Detective Michael Chen met James with a nod, keeping a respectful distance from Zeus. "Master Sergeant Matthews," he began, "we've pulled 3 separate security feeds of the attempt. Your wife turned this from a covert hit to a full-blown public incident. That forced them to blow cover and scatter." James said nothing. He was watching Zeus. The dog had found the abandoned utility van and was moving around it with purpose, cataloging scents like he was back in Afghanistan. "The van's registered to a shell company," Chen continued, "but they left a mess, prints, fibers, and comms equipment all over it." Across the city, cartel members scrambled for their safe houses. In a dimly lit basement, Marco Ramirez paced with his phone pressed to his ear. "They knew," he growled. "The mother had protocols in place, emergency routines. She was trained." On the other end, silence. Then, "We've lost contact with the secondary team. Radio silence since the police showed." At a nearby news station, aerial footage of the school was already on the air. Reporters called it what it was: an attempted kidnapping by suspected cartel operatives. Inside the shopping center's security office, Rodriguez reviewed the broadcast. "They've got 4 clear facial shots," she said to Angela and Sarah. "Thanks to you, facial recognition is already running." Sarah sat under a shock blanket pressed against her mother. "Did you and Dad know this could happen?" she asked quietly. Angela ran her fingers through her daughter's hair. "Your dad's work is important, baby. Sometimes that means bad people try to get to us. That's why we have Zeus. That's why we practice special routes. That's why we're always careful." The elevator doors opened, and Zeus was the first to emerge, eyes locked on Sarah. James followed close behind, visibly relieved but still alert. Zeus relaxed slightly but positioned himself strategically, watching both the door and his family at once. "Got something," Chen said, holding up his tablet. "The prints from the van match a known Los Zetas enforcer, Carlos Vega, wanted in Texas, multiple kidnappings." He paused. "The comms gear, military grade, just went missing from a convoy last month." Rodriguez pulled up a digital map of Denver on the main monitor. "We've got roadblocks on all exits, choppers in the air, and every available unit running leads," she explained. "But this, it feels too organized for just a snatch and grab." James nodded, scratching Zeus behind the ears. "The gear, the tactics, the surveillance, this was professional. They'd been watching us for weeks. They knew my training schedule. Angela added, they knew Sarah's school route, knew you'd be occupied with the new K-9 unit at Fort Carson. They even accounted for Zeus being home during school hours. Outside, more media vans were pulling up, but police held them back. No one was getting through the perimeter. Rodriguez's phone buzzed. SWAT just hit the apartment where the fake maintenance guy changed. It's clean, but they left behind detailed plans, school layouts, patrol paths, camera blind spots. James narrowed his eyes. They used my own K-9 schedule against me. They planned this for the one time she wouldn't have Zeus. Sarah reached for Zeus's fur. He nuzzled her hand, staying in position. Is that why you said I should bring him for show and tell next week? She asked. James gave her a faint smile. Your dad had a feeling something was off, Angela answered. We all did. Zeus, too. Chen's radio crackled again. Blue sedan just tried to run a checkpoint on I-25. Driver's in custody. ID confirms Miguel Ortiz. Cartel known associate. Rodriguez studied the updated map, eyes narrowing as patterns emerged. And just like that, the operation that was meant to be quiet, controlled, and invisible was unraveling in real time, broadcast live across the state. Because one family had prepared, because one dog had sensed what humans almost missed, and because one mother refused to freeze. In the aftermath of a failed kidnapping, the Matthews family's quiet suburban life was transformed forever. What began as a cartel's attempt to extract information turned into a catastrophic mistake. Zeus, a retired military K-9, wasn't just a family pet. He was a trained operative who exposed the cartel's entire regional infrastructure. The DEA, military, and international agencies soon realized the full scale of the disruption. Zeus's training allowed him to detect not just drugs, but patterns, behaviors, and hidden operations. His instincts and precision led authorities to over 40 cartel sites, hundreds of millions in assets, and evidence of deep corruption and surveillance networks. As law enforcement processed the evidence, Zeus continued patrolling, not out of duty, but instinct. He had become more than a working dog. He was the model for a new kind of protection, one that combined military precision with deep loyalty to family. The Matthews community, once seen as an easy target, became a symbol of strength and transformation. Security upgrades, community watch programs, and national protocols based on Zeus's actions, now called the Zeus Doctrine, rolled out across schools and neighborhoods. What the cartel saw as a vulnerability was, in truth, a fortress built on trust, training, and unwavering protection. Zeus wasn't just a dog who stopped a kidnapping. He had redefined what protection meant in the modern world. And through it all, for Sarah, he remained the same. A gentle hero, her protector first, and now, everyone's.